What is a hero? A mythological figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability? An illustrious warrior? No. It's a person admired for achievements and noble qualities, one who shows great courage. Welcome to the What's a Hero podcast, where we dive deep into what a hero is and what makes them that hero. I'm your host, Ken Frowfelter, and I'm going to be introducing you to some of the world's most likely and unlikely heroes. You may have never heard of them before, and they most likely have never met you. But they all have one thing in common. They are ready to do whatever it takes to help make you better, even if it means sacrificing everything for you. Let's get into it.
Welcome to episode 14 of the What's a Hero podcast. I'm your host, Ken Frowfelter. How patient are you? Are you patient enough to wait on hold for 90 minutes while your bank or doctor or insurance company figures out what they're doing? Do you get so frustrated thinking I'm totally wasting my time and there are a million other things I could be doing or would like to be doing? I think it's not so much the waiting, but the thought of waiting and wasting time. However, we think about how much time we waste in our everyday lives, we'd be amazed, right? Do you shut your computer down 5 to 10 minutes before you're scheduled to go off work and then wait until it's time to actually clock out? Do you focus your attention on a project only to get sidetracked by an activity that is in no way a priority? Or do you keep looking at social media or whatever after you finish going to the bathroom because that has become your only you time? The difference is this stuff is what you want to do right now. The waiting on the phone for 90 minutes is not what you want to do. It may not be what you need to have happen, and so something you want to do can happen though. One thing you can do so you don't get so frustrated is prepare yourself ahead of time, knowing that the wait is in your future, out of your control, and inevitable. When I was originally hired as a police officer, I tested multiple times for my current department and neighboring ones. Ultimately, I was hired by the department I wanted to work for, but after failing the test multiple times, I became impatient and frustrated with my career choice. I had chosen it, but it did not seem to want to choose me. It was never the physical agility or the background I had an issue with. It was always whenever I put pen to paper or the dreaded oral board. After working on myself, I became a police officer. Now notice I said I became a police officer. It was many years until I became the police officer I knew I could be and are still becoming that man. Life is full of struggles, but all we can do is dig in deep and keep moving forward with whatever life throws at us. Which brings us to today's guests. Now, I said guests because I have two guys here with me today who were gracious enough to come spend time with us and tell you all about themselves. Tim is a cop for about 5 years, give or take?
About 7.
7. I was wrong. It's 7 years. And he used to be a banker. And Marcus, well, Marcus is not quite a cop yet.
Soon, hopefully.
But he's on that road, and it is just a matter of time. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You guys can talk at the same time.
We can? Okay.
Yeah, you can talk over each other, all that good stuff, because it's not going to make a big difference. It's not like a Zoom call where you have to stop and wait for somebody else.
Got it.
So, tell us about yourself, guys. Who are you?
Go ahead, sir.
Well, as Ken said, I've been a police officer for about 7 years now. In a prior life, I worked in banking for about 15 years. And, loving my time as a police officer now, though.
Yeah. And Mr. Marcus?
I've been a police cadet for a year and a half now. And just like you said, with the test, I failed it multiple times. And the career didn't want me. So now that I'm finally at this point of going into backgrounds, it's pretty exciting.
Which is cool, except for the fact now that you have to wait even longer because of coronavirus and all this other crap that's coming in.
That's been the waiting game from when I started as a cadet to when they finally opened a job because of COVID. It's been a long ride.
Yeah, so patience is absolutely your virtue now.
Yes.
So before that, though, and I'm gonna stick on Marcus for a second. Before that, you did something else. You didn't just go come right out of school or something like that.
Yeah, I was in the Army for 4 years, stationed in Fort Bliss, got deployed twice, time of my life, and then finally got out.
Yeah, and where'd you go? Deployed to?
I went to Djibouti, Africa, and Kuwait, and did some time in Iraq. All was fun. I had my best friends next to me, and
Yeah.
just hard work out there, but it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Tim,
Yes.
let's go. Let's talk about little Timmy.
Ooh,
Timmy boy.
it's a long time ago.
Who was little Timmy?
Little Timmy. I grew up. Down in Southern California part of my life. A lot of time just running the neighborhood on bikes and skateboards and trying to hustle. I always tried to find some way to make money, whether it's knocking on people's doors asking if I could mow their yard or wash their car. I was always trying to hustle, because if I wanted money, that was the way I was going to get it.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of a. Let me ask you, Mark. What did you do as a kid?
What did I do as a kid?
Who was little Marky?
Little Marky grew up in Bend, Oregon, and loved time outside. I got eaten alive by red ants out there all the time in the desert. But all I wanted to do was hunt.
Yeah.
I wasn't old enough. Just wanted to hunt. I wanted to go outside and hunt. That's it.
It's kind of funny that that's kind of a running theme with everybody that I have interviewed on this podcast so far.
Must
and
be pretty cool guys then.
I think, well, you just.
I don't think Tim is.
I don't hunt.
Oh.
I mean, I would, but I never have.
He's talking about hunting. We're talking about something else.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, what I'm saying is that there's a kind of a running thing where everybody is. I say, hey, what did you do as a kid? They were outside playing. Everybody was outside playing, and you're not that old.
No, I'm 24,
Marcus, and you so you even grew up in the internet with the internet and all this different stuff. I didn't grow up with the internet. Didn't happen until I was well within being an adult, but it was always outside playing. Everybody was always outside playing, and you talk to everybody that I've talked to so far, and they've all been outside players, doing stuff outside. And there's never I did a lot of sitting inside. Now, maybe they don't want to admit that they watched a lot of movies.
Nobody wants to admit that.
Yeah, but that,
Don't get me wrong, once technology did evolve, I played my fair share of Xbox and whatnot, especially with the high school buddies.
But if you had the opportunity to go outside, you'd be outside.
Absolutely.
And so I'm assuming that's the same thing with you, huh, Tim?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was, like Marcus said, I played some video games, but as I got into high school, that kind of started phasing out with the ability to drive and have some freedom in life. The video games got left behind. And
yeah. So, as you guys get older and you start getting into school and stuff like that, you start figuring out what you wanted to do after you got out of school. You guys, did you know what you wanted to do?
I was a little lost for a little bit. I think I spent maybe a year and a half not really sure what I wanted to do right out of high school. But I finally decided I wanted to be a police officer. So I moved to be around some buddies, one of which also wanted to be a police officer. And we started attending community college courses for criminal justice and kind of heading down that path. Yeah.
But so, I mean, you're doing that, but you said you were a banker for 15 years.
Yeah. So, funny story about that. So while I was going to college, I picked up a little part-time job as a bank teller. It was good. It was what I thought was good money. It was more than minimum wage, and it was inside, so nice and cool in the summer.
Dry and warm. And
yeah. So while I was going to school for that, was doing well in banking, was really excelling at that, but got an opportunity to test at an agency in Southern California. I was living in Oregon at the time, but had an opportunity to test for an agency in Southern California. Went down there, was given a conditional job offer to go to backgrounds. And in the middle of my background packet, I had a little bit of a freak out about moving from Oregon, which was comfortable for me, down to Southern California. So I withdrew my application, and I kind of just focused on the banking thing and took off on that.
So there was, I guess, that point where you got a little bit just unsure and thinking, I'm going to be away from family. I'm going to be... Yeah,
absolutely. And,
And Southern California.
Yeah, Southern California is great to visit, but the thought of living there is overwhelming.
Very.
And that was 20 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. So it's even crazier now. But
yeah. And so, what did you Marcus, when you were in school? Would you say I want to be a cop, or do you say I want to be in the military? Or
for me, it was I had a.
You can move that mic too, so it's right in front of you. So scoot it that way a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
perfect.
I had a friend that actually works at this department who used to have me do ride-alongs all the time.
Uh-huh.
So I used to come down here all the time. I feel like I've seen you a long time ago, but I didn't want to bring it up. Like,
yeah,
hey, can you remember me? I was like 16.
Yeah,
but I used to. A couple of the guys still here. They took me on a ton of rides, and I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is really cool to do. Kind of help these people, give them that kind of blanket of security over them when, you know, maybe I can't solve this problem for you, but I'm still going to be there for them.
Right.
So after high school, everybody's getting ready for college. Everybody's pushing college on me, and I'm like, I don't want to do school again at all.
Right.
So next thing you know, a recruiter comes into the school, and I'm like, I start chatting with him, and the next thing you know, he's calling me, texting me, like, hey, come up to the office. And so then I sworn in at 17. My parents signed a waiver, so I got to swear in, and
off to boot camp, huh?
Off to boot camp in August, right after I graduated. And then after that, it was just time to work. I mean, then was in Fort Benning for a while in Georgia. Shortly after that, straight to Fort Bliss, and then immediately got deployed.
Yeah.
So going from being a private in the Army and then immediately getting deployed after that was pretty scary.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
And what was your job over there? Or are you allowed to say?
I'm allowed to say. I was a 19 Delta, a cavalry scout.
Yeah.
So like my whole job was.
So you get to ride a horse?
I wish.
No
horses.
They don't do that anymore.
No, they were, but the motor pool was too dirty. So, so my whole job was to go out first, find a place to hide, find the enemy, draw a map, send it back to the commander, and that was what we did. So we would drive our Humvees and Bradleys up into, I mean, the worst terrain. We went through tires like no other.
Really?
Oh man. But yeah, that was kind of our thing. Just go up in the bushes and hide and watch people.
And take the chance of getting found and all that stuff like that.
Exactly. So a lot of training on, if you do get found, what are you going to do to survive, if that's what it comes to.
Yeah.
But.
And obviously you never got found, or if you got found, it didn't work out to your detriment. So.
Exactly.
So that's good. That's awesome.
We can't talk about that.
Whoa, easy. So go back to Tim. You're going. You're working in the bank. You're doing that for, 15 years.
God, you must be old.
Yeah,
very old, super old.
So you're doing that for 15 years, and you realize, you know what, I'm going to take that chance again.
Yeah, I was, after 15 years in banking, I felt like I was just kind of dying behind that desk. It got to be super boring, and dealing with employees was becoming less and less fun. So, and as Marcus has pointed out, I was getting up there in age.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured
that's why I'm here.
If I was going to do the police thing, I better get on it. So, tested with my current agency, and somehow luckily got selected. I think I was like the last of the accepted choices, but I got in.
So you were okay. Yeah, so you were that one that were like, well, we need to fill a spot. And
I think I was.
This guy is okay.
I think I got one of our current officers, I think, was selected before me, but she had an injury that prevented her from being able to go to the academy. So I think I was like, it was definitely the choice after her.
Yeah.
So, but that's okay. I like to give her a hard time now because I have more seniority.
By a week or two, or
like a couple months.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she had to recover from that injury. So.
Yeah. So you're doing that. You're getting to be that officer that you want to be now.
Yeah.
And is it everything you thought it was? And you're thinking, maybe I want to go back to banking at some point.
Or yeah. I mean, now I'm good, and I feel pretty confident in the job. I mean, there's still a lot to learn because you learn something new every day. But during the training process, when you're with a coach that's picking apart every little thing you do wrong,
sure, yeah.
Banking's not looking so bad. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't look for the help wanted ads in the banking section while I was in my training process.
Yeah, while you're an FTEP, that's always that so stressful that you're like, okay, am I cut out for this?
Right.
Or
it really makes you doubt yourself. It was by far the hardest experience of any job I've ever had, just mentally draining, and I mean, not physically hard, just mentally destroyed you.
Right. And
no pressure there, Marcus.
Thank you.
So Marcus, you get out of, or you're in the Army,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say, you know what, I'm done after 4 years.
So it wasn't actually, I didn't want to be done.
Right.
So I re-enlisted when I was in Kuwait.
Uh-huh.
So I did another 2 years, got a bonus, whatever. So shortly after that, I hurt myself on a ruck march, which is you're carrying a lot of weight on your back. You're just walking.
Right.
So I ended up tripping up on flat ground and hurt my back. So I was like, okay, it's kind of holding me back. So ended up going to the docs. They're like, okay, like, you're fine, whatever. I'm like, okay. So
You say so, yeah.
I kept going to the gym. I was in the shape of my life. And next thing I knew, I couldn't get out of bed. I was 20 years old, and I can't get out of bed. So all these people, like my platoon sergeant and my section sergeant, are like, what's going on? Like, you are running bent over at a 90-degree angle. I was like, I can't stand up straight. I can't put my back straight because it hurts my entire left leg.
Right.
So after that, I ended up getting sent home early because my firstborn was coming.
Right.
So came back to Fort Bliss after she was born, go through all these back classes, stretching, massages, injections, and they just ended up saying, there ain't nothing we can do for you. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, I want to be here. Obviously, I re-enlisted for a reason.
Right.
And they just flat out said, we're going to chapter you. And I was like, well, okay. And next thing I know, I'm back home. I have my daughter, my young daughter, and no job. And I'm back at my parents' house. And the VA was like, well, nothing we can do for you. And I'm like, well, I'm 22.
I can't even pick up my daughter.
I can't do anything. So after coming out of the Army and wanting to do this job, I just didn't know if I could pull the trigger because my back was so messed up.
Right.
And so finally ended up going to my doctor, my just family doctor, and they're like, oh yeah, we can do surgery, no problem. Like, okay, let's do it. And then next thing you know, I'm back. Like, nothing. Never been better.
Really?
And that's all I needed. I mean,
somebody get in there and
they just had to shave off one of my discs and no more pain, no nothing. And I'm just kind of like, even looking back at it, as like, if I would have got the surgery in the Army, would I still be there? I think absolutely.
Yeah. Well, do you think that your buddies there when you were there could have just pulled out their K-bars or whatever and
just gave me a little slap in the back?
A little slicey?
I would have tried anything at that point.
Yeah. When do they think about that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
So, nevertheless, you got out.
Mm-hmm.
You have a civilian surgery.
Yeah.
And they say you're good to go, and you're like, holy cow, I can do things I haven't been able to do. And
I'm back.
Yeah, and you're good to go.
No
you pick
pun
up
intended.
your kiddos, and so now you're always you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And now, but what was your decision? You said, I still want to be a cop at this point.
So, after I got my back fixed, I actually ended up going to college, community college, studying. What was I studying? Forestry. I was like, hey, I'm gonna do forestry. Let's try it.
Right.
So I went to classes, and I absolutely hated it. And finished all the classes, did good in the classes, but I was like, this ain't me.
Right.
So ended up, my same buddy that works at this department reached out to me and showed me a flyer for the police cadet program.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I don't know. It's like, I commute every day. So, and I was like, I don't know. I'll try it. Why not? So I ended up going to the first interview. I did amazing.
Even if you do say so yourself?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, they clapped me out of there, I guarantee. Chief's interview was a different story.
Yeah.
I sat there and didn't move. I I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything, and I just sat there and stared at him, and he's just like, "What are you doing?" So they ended up like, "All right, we're done." And Chief walked me out. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I was like, I have no idea what just happened. I'm sorry. He's like, he was super cool. He's like, "Give me a call sometime. Like, come over and chat, and we'll get better at your interviews." I was like, "Thanks." So, because it wasn't good by any means.
Yeah. So you get to that point where now you ultimately got back into doing the interviews and all this different stuff, and you become a police cadet. Mm-hmm. And what does a police cadet get to do? Because it's not a full police officer, so you don't get to carry a gun.
No. So right. we what I usually do is I walk the streets every day downtown. And
what'd you say?
Yeah, what's going on over there, Tim?
What'd I say?
Yeah, what'd you say?
Oh, I told him he was my bitch.
This is a family show, Tim.
They say that word on network television, so
anyways,
I'm good with it.
Before I was interrupted, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
I usually just walk around downtown and go to talk to all the merchants.
Right.
And I think that is a blast.
And he does what I tell him.
And I am Tim's assistant at times.
Yeah. That's right. I guess the time will come when he'll be your assistant.
Yeah, he'll be my bitch.
That's right. So, so you get to do that. You get to go around and you more or less contact businesses and stuff like that, and looking for city ordinance violations or whatever, and you can report those back and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's more or less, I guess, to get you back into that point where you can start to learn,
kind of transition straight over to being a full-time
police officer, and you already have this experience of, because a lot of stuff that you do that you don't even think about is difficult as a police officer. Just talking on the radio sometimes, it's a lot of people have a hard time getting that out there, or knowing your orientation and where you're at, knowing the streets is something that you have to know. Yeah. Getting those little things taken care of ahead of time is a big deal.
It'd be huge.
So that's awesome that you get to do that and you have that opportunity and you have that ability to adapt to it. So ultimately your plan is, and I believe that from what I understand is that provided the hiring freeze kind of picks off and coronavirus goes away and all this different stuff, you're going to get hired and picked up by your department, and so you can go become a full-fledged police officer, and that's something that you've been wanting to do for, at this point, 10 years now. Huh?
A long time.
Yeah.
So, I have a question for Tim.
Yeah, ask away.
So, when you were a banker, did you ever press the button? And you know what button I'm talking about?
The alarm button?
Yeah.
I never.
Did you get tempted
not
to?
Not intentionally. I mean, I while working, we were robbed. I've been through a couple robberies, but
you didn't press
push
it?
The button.
On your last day, did you press it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. That's initiating a false report. And when you're a real cop, you'll learn that that's against the law.
How many toasters did you give away?
Ooh.
We actually did do a promotion. It's funny what people will do for free
stuff.
Crap, basically. It's like, I think we went and got, it was some kitchen appliance. It wasn't a toaster, but it was, we needed, so for everybody who has in their head that a banker job is like this big financial expert job, it's really not. It's a sales position. So when you work at a bank, they want you selling their bank products. So you might notice when you go to the bank and cash your check, the teller might be trying to talk to you about, hey, have you opened an account, or do you need a credit card, do you need a loan?
Do you need a football phone?
Do you need a football phone? Whatever.
Football phones are good.
Yeah, they're pushing bank products. So that's kind of what I did, and it was sales management. So we were giving away something, and it worked. Like people wanted, it was like a $10 thing at Walmart.
People are willing to open an account. They're willing to do all sorts of stuff.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing what people will do for free junk.
Right. So you're, as a police officer, you're now obviously not giving away free junk.
No.
Free advice.
Lots of
free advice. But are you noticing the other side of it now? Because obviously as a banker, inward focus. You're working on a sale, or you're working on just the hours.
Yeah.
And you do that, and you call it good, and you go home, and you have cushy hours.
Yeah.
Now, as a police officer, you don't have cushy hours necessarily. Right. You're working those weekends. You're working those holidays. You don't get that solid hour lunch that you might. You might not even get a lunch at all.
Right.
What's the difference in your mind? How did you acclimate to that?
How'd I leave that behind?
Yeah.
To go to that. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a question one of my FTOs actually asked me.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. It's just worth it. It's worth it to have purpose. I didn't really feel like I had purpose as a bank employee. I mean, it was always nice to help people better their financial situation. If you had a bank product that could, save them time, save them money, add convenience to their life, that's nice. That's a nice thing to do. But as a police officer, you have a little more purpose, it feels, in life. So you're willing to make those sacrifices, willing to put your time in on night shift or those weekend and holiday shifts.
Right.
It makes it worth it.
So there's always that question that they ask during like Aura boards and things like that. Why do you want to do this? Why? And so I guess I can ask both of you guys, why do you want to do it? And the whole, I want to help people, that doesn't count.
Oh, it doesn't?
It doesn't count. You can't just say, well, I want to be nice, or I want to make sure, because there's a point when, and I mentioned this a couple podcasts ago, when you don't want to help people anymore because they're mean, or they're rude, or they're unappreciative, or whatever the case may be, where you just don't want to help somebody anymore. And you're like, how do you get to that point when you start realizing, I have to do this, because if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. So what's your motivation for wanting to do it?
My motivation is...
Oh, and you can't say I want to drive fast and carry a gun either.
Damn it, that was my second one.
Sorry.
My motivation is, I think when I was a child, you used to see homeless people. You used to say they're dirty, they're gross, whatever.
Right.
So even being a cadet, I get to talk to all those people all the time. And it has completely swapped my mind of, these aren't bad people. Most of them, okay? Because there's certain groups of, some homeless people are...
Well, sure. There's criminals. There's bad people in every demographic.
Actually, like talking to them and listening to their stories, and like, hey, I'm just out here for all the wrong reasons. Like, I got something stupid happened to me. It changed my whole perspective of homeless people and how I want to move forward with trying to get them the most resources as I can. And that's what keeps me going, is helping somebody. I mean, we took somebody up to a place that had more resources than we could offer them. And I think they're doing way better than what they were doing here. And one that we used to have here, he has a job and he lives somewhere else. He has a house, and shot him a text, said, "Hey, thank you so much." I think that's a
motivator, huh?
Exactly.
That's awesome. What about you, buddy?
Yeah, so some of that for sure. I mean, that's a lot of what I deal with now is working with people, trying to help them find resources, and that's good. But it's on some of the bigger, more high-profile type cases. It's fun putting that puzzle together. It's fun, when you sit someone down for interview and interrogation, getting them to, just open up to you and have that conversation with you. It feels good.
I'll tell you, there's one picture that sticks in my mind of you. Somebody took it a couple years ago, and there's this little kid. He had either walked away from his house or ran away from his house or whatever. Now, he's little, and he had to be under 5, maybe 3 or 4 even. And he was walking around this parking lot of this bank off of the highway. And everybody was looking for him, and you happened to find him. And so somebody snapped a picture of you sitting on the curb. He's in his diaper and his shorts or whatever, and you're sitting right next to him, and you're just having a conversation. It looked like you're having a conversation with him.
Yeah. And
somebody mentions, and I saw this on Facebook, and it says, all it said was this, or this right here. And so, I mean, that, if nothing else, I think that is a perfect personification of who the police are, is that we just honestly want to help people, and we want to see people doing okay. And if we have a chance to sit with somebody who otherwise is in danger or something's not working out for them, then we have that. And the fact that was you, because when I saw that video, I'm like, it said this right here, and I'm like, who is that? So I had to like zoom in to see who it was, and I realized it was you, and that was a huge thing where it really impressed me, and it really, I was really not so much taken back, but more, I guess, kind of sidelined, thinking, all right, Tim does good work. He's a good guy that, and this is perfect. So, kudos to you for that, man.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So those of you that you don't have cameras in the studio here,
Mm-hmm.
but Marcus just patted Tim on the shoulder because I think that's who Marcus wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You are kind of my hero.
I do what I can.
Yeah. So Marcus, do you get a chance to hunt now? Are you hunting still, or not so much? Or
Yes.
Do you hunt, or do you just camp out in the woods with guns?
So, funny story about that. This last year was pretty rough for.
Sure. I mean, coronavirus does that for everything.
Yeah. Well, I went hunting and just didn't kill anything. But
were all the deer wearing masks and stuff?
well, so
Stupid question, I know. Just kidding.
we have a place where we go hunting, and my brother just happens to be a lot lighter than me and a lot faster.
Uh-huh.
So we were cruising side by side, and I look over and I see a deer and I see horns, and it was a big 4-point. So I go, it's go time. So
Right.
I've got a rifle in one hand, trying to jump out of this side by side. Cade, my brother, is already halfway down the road shooting this guy, and I'm like, good for you. And I want my little brother to have that, but then after that, we didn't see another thing with horns,
Right.
at all.
Nothing.
So, and I was like, all right, dude, you better give me some jerky. And it's been a very long time, and I still have no jerky. But my hunting partner, which is my wife, and we had a solo trip over there one time, and we shot an elk. And to this day, she still brags about how she carried all, because we quartered it up, because it was just me and her. There's no way we're going to get that full carcass
Right.
back to the house. But she'll still talk about the story to this day that she got all the hams, all the tenderloins, and the head, put it all in the Polaris, and she talks a big story though. But yeah, that was probably the best hunting trip I've ever had.
So she talks a big story. Do we need to get her in here?
You might need to get her in here,
and so
Absolutely.
she can do that and actually set the story straight.
Yeah, it's nice when they die next to the road too.
The deer, not your wife.
Not the wife.
Not the wife. Sorry. Let's be clear here. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I brought my own material.
Oh, have at it.
Well, I looked up some things of what superheroes say, and I was going to tie that into
The What's a Hero?
the What's a Hero.
Okay, let's hear what superheroes say.
It's clobbering time.
It's clobbering time. That's the thing.
This doesn't work. This is a stupid idea. It's a terrible idea.
No. Keep going.
No, it's okay.
That bullet's downrange, bud.
Yeah.
Let's finish it.
A Hulk smash,
No,
all.
you said clobbering time. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
That's fine.
Did you know that?
No.
So, being in this room, Ken, there's a lot of books up here,
I do have a lot of books in this room.
and I love that.
Yeah.
When I was in the Army, I got big into comic books.
Yeah.
Love them. Don't read them.
Yeah.
Look them up online for that. You open them, there goes the price. Tim, were you into comic books at all?
I had a real little tiny phase of comic. Yeah, not much.
Not much.
I mean,
So
I
my
like
thing is,
characters.
I started collecting when I was pretty young, and I didn't have a lot of friends. So what I had was some comic books, and so I started reading them. And Saturday I'd go work in somebody's, either mow their lawn or work in their garden or do whatever. And I'd get enough money to go Saturday afternoon, go to the comic book store. This is when I lived down in California. And so I would do that. When I moved away, all I had were the comic books, right? I had zero friends because I didn't know anybody. And so I read the same comic books that I had, I read again. And so I spent a lot of time in that world, as a, 8th grader or whatever. And, there was a couple years I had nothing. I stopped collecting them at a certain point when high school. And then when my son was born, and then he got old enough we started looking at comic books again. So then he and I started going to comic book stores and doing all this other stuff together. And then, sure enough, I still have all these comic books from when I was a kid and then when my son was a kid. And it just came down to the point where, some of these are probably his, but I've got... So if you're listening, and obviously I don't have cameras in here, however, I've got the whole line along the ceiling line is just lined up with first edition comic books or number ones or special editions. So you've got X-Men and Spider-Man and Wolverine and all that stuff like that. So, but yeah, my son helped me design the room, and we went over the whole thing, and so
yeah, it's super cool. My wife makes me hide them in the garage.
Yeah, my wife's cool. So,
sorry, Kenna.
I'm just kidding. I'm sure Kenna's fantastic.
Kendo.
So, but no. So I have them here anymore, and that's what I do. So I have it set up like that, and yeah. So there are quite a few comic books in here, but nothing that's. I guess I'm not going to say too expensive because there are a couple that are kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I've seen them.
Yeah, but so anyways, getting back to you guys.
To it,
yeah. Let's get
That's
back
my
to
bad.
Yeah. That's all right.
It's clobbering time.
What keeps you guys? I guess. Well, Tim, let me go back to you real quick. What do you do? He says he's hunting all the time. What do you do when you're not working?
I feel very busy, but I don't. So, I like fitness. I try to do some kind of physical fitness in the morning. I've recently gone back to school, so taking some classes. Like to keep my wife happy, so I come home and I cook dinner. So by the time I'm through that, schoolwork, working out, working my shift, coming home. It's pretty much to bed. But on the weekends, I like to cut loose. Recently purchased a side-by-side, so go try that side-by-side life out. And
going to the dunes or
go to the dunes, up in the trails.
Right.
How many times have you been to the dunes?
Well, just once.
Oh, just once. Okay.
I was hooked.
Yeah.
That's good.
It was
That's
one
awesome.
and done.
I know. I saw it. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So now you're in debt more. Oh no, you're a banker. You know what's up.
I'm a banker.
Mind. You know how to.
Remember, I'm a financial expert.
You know how to
with my banking background.
adjust monies and stuff like that. So
I think Tupac said, "Trying to make $1 out of 15 cents." That's what I do.
Okay.
Did he say that?
I don't know.
Anyways,
I'm not a Tupac fan, so I don't. Sorry if you are a Tupac fan. Apologize. But anyways, so when you guys are going into work and you're doing all these different things that you guys want to make sure that that you're helping people, but you're not, because I guess Tim, like you said, you spend a lot of time more or less working with kind of a specialized program in going in and helping those people who are homeless or are down on their luck, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of our homeless population, vast majority of our homeless population are either drug addicted or have mental illness issues or both. So it's just trying, when I speak of resources, I'm trying to get them into some kind of drug and alcohol treatment, or I'm trying to get them into some kind of mental health assessment to where they can get help with that. So that's really my focus when I'm trying to help the homeless population.
Right. So when you get to that point where you can't help somebody anymore, or you don't think that it's taking, or they honestly don't want to accept that help, what do you do?
Yeah, it's a tough one because it definitely does not work unless they're ready or open to being helped that way. You can't force anybody to get help. So unfortunately, a lot of times they just remain out on the streets and living that hard life. But you just keep after it. I mean, I talk to them. I talk to a lot of the same people every single day, and every single day I'll say, "Hey, are you ready? Is it time? Is today the day?" I'll let you know. Oh, okay. Well, I'll be here. I'll be here tomorrow. So,
so I remember when my kids, they were super little, and they had said something like, "Oh, look at this guy," and he was in a crosswalk or whatever, and my wife got kind of down on him, and she's like, "You don't know their story. You don't know why they're that way. You don't know what's going on with them, and so you have no business, saying anything or making jokes about them or anything like that." So she was right. We don't know somebody else's story. We don't know what's going on with them. But there are people who want to live that lifestyle, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And no matter how many options you give them, opportunities to go do something else and be something more, they don't want to take it.
Correct. Yeah. They they want to be cold. I mean, it's cold right now. Some mornings it's like in the 20s. And I ask them, "Aren't you cold?" "Yeah, it's freezing." "Okay. Don't you want to not be cold anymore?" Well, not bad enough. So
right.
They're not at bottom yet. So.
And I always wondered, was it because of the fact that they don't want to have the responsibility, they don't want to have the schedule, they don't want to have somebody, that boss breathing down their neck, "Hey, I want this done," and is there that sort of thing, or is there something more to it that maybe that we don't see?
Yeah, it's tough. I think that has a big part to do with it. They don't want to follow rules,
right.
Or the people that at least don't want help, that are just choosing that lifestyle. They want to live that lifestyle of being able to do what they want, when they want, and how they want, and they don't care if they have to sleep outside or sleep in the cold because they get to do what they want at all times. So
I guess the cost benefit is in their favor. They get to do what they want.
Right.
Yeah, it might be cold, it might be all this other stuff, but I get to do what I want.
They do. And there are so many resources out there for things like food and clothing and shelter. When I say shelter, there's organizations that give out tents and bedding and that help facilitate that lifestyle where, I always kind of joke, in the U.S. we have the most overweight homeless population because
right.
You don't really see super in other countries when there's people that are down on their luck. They're rail thin because they might get 1 or 2 meals a week.
Yeah, they're destitute.
Yeah, they are destitute. But a lot of our homeless are well fed and well cared for otherwise. So there's no real motivation. They're not really at bottom. I mean, they're living a hard life. Don't get me wrong. It's not a life I would want to live or suggest anybody to live. But
so because there's people I've had conversations with people who have said we need more mental health, we need more counseling, we need more all this different stuff. My understanding and the way I've seen it and experienced it, we're not lacking in those things. Those things are there, and it's the fact that some people just don't want to go after it.
Yeah, that's totally correct. Yeah,
we can always use more counselors. We can always use more, but it's not like there's a lack of them now that there's a big line and we're not able to provide counseling and provide help for all these people who need the help that they're just lined up outside the door.
Right.
There's those resources are there. We just don't. Some people just don't want to take advantage of them.
No, and we make it easy. We offer to drive people around to the resources. We try to make it real easy. Get in the car, we'll drive you to where you need to go to get what you need, and they still figure out a way.
You even go out of the way to call a counselor beforehand, say, "Hey, can I bring this person to you?"
Yeah,
and then you hit them up, and they're like, "No, I'm not ready."
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I mean, and the people that are addicted to drugs and alcohol are just as bad as the people that need mental health assistance. They just want to get high or get drunk every day. So
right
until they're ready. And we've had few, like Marcus said, we've had some that have finally turned that corner, and it's cool. It's really awesome when you get to see somebody, and I get the text from the guy that tells me I'm his guardian angel. It's really him. He did the work. I just
point the way.
I pointed him the way.
Right.
So he did the work, but it's cool for him to say that about me. But I would do it for everybody out there.
Right. And, you know, I agree. I know you would. I think there's a ton of police officers out there who would also. Mm-hmm. And you and I both know, and Marcus, you know a lot of these guys who they would just give the shirt off their back for somebody else, provided they, you know, they're even to that point where they would give that and they would do all these different things for somebody else and then not get anything in return, and then kind of expect that the person would go forward and do what they need to do, but that they sometimes they don't, and sometimes they don't care about doing that so much, you know, and then you got to figure, okay, I want to see this person succeed and I want to see them be better for several different reasons. One, so they're not freezing on the street and they're dying or whatever the case is, they're getting sick. Or you can also say, hey, I'm doing something that's a benefit to other people. But, you know, also the fact that, you know, you don't have to worry about this person anymore. They're self-sufficient and they're able to go and become that productive member of society, which makes a huge difference. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So we had just a little bit of a hiccup, and I have to I'm going to edit it later, but you guys were talking about, and I'm kind of switching gears here, is age. We're talking about age here, and you asked, because we mentioned Tupac earlier, and you asked Marcus, you really don't know who Tupac is. Oh, no, Marcus, you asked if...
No, I know who Tupac is. Don't worry.
And so you, but...
He was wondering if I was still alive, if I was alive when he was alive. And I was.
Yeah.
Just a wee lad, though.
You went to a couple of concerts of his? Or?
Yeah. As a 4-month-old, absolutely.
We got to talk with your parents?
Uh-oh.
Not the place for children.
Sorry, Mom.
But, yeah, I guess that there's that mindset that you want to see someone succeed, and you want to know that your efforts are making a difference in somebody else's life, and that you're moving forward and helping others move forward, which is absolutely a benefit to everybody, including yourself, and knowing that you're not necessarily wasting your time. And I don't think you're wasting your time. I don't think we're going around wasting time doing what we're doing. And
it can feel that way, though. Like, just being real about it. Like, it can feel like, you know, we're like you're banging your head against the wall, because it's, like you said, it's the same people every day and that say no every day.
And you've had that same conversation 20 times.
Mm-hmm. And it can be very frustrating.
But, you know, I mean, it could possibly be that number 21 is going to be the one that's going to get that person to...
That's true. Yeah. The ones that I've had success with, you know, it definitely wasn't the first, second, third, or fourth time. It was somewhere down the line. And so you don't know. You don't know when it's going to click.
Right. So that's fantastic. Just to think that, you know, you take somebody who just was a banker, and not to say that bankers are, you know, you don't get a lot of chance to go out and serve other people. You have checks and balances that you have to do, and you have paperwork that you have to do, and you have to do all that stuff like that. And like you said, you're just sitting behind a desk, but there's not that sense that you have right now, where you are going out and making sure that somebody else has an opportunity to get better, even though you're stressed with it and you're frustrated by it, and you're worried that, you know, is it the right thing to be doing? How long am I going to be doing this? Mm-hmm. But it's more rewarding than you could have imagined, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, you know, Marcus, you're starting out. You're getting ready to start out. You're going to go on this whole thing. Aside from learning all these little nuances, radio etiquette, and how to do that, and how to be, you know where you're at, and right things to say, and how to do things, and everything like that. You're also getting this absolute benefit of learning how by different personalities in the department specifically of this guy does it this way and this guy does it that way. Is there anything that you've learned that you say that there's one way to do something, or are you noticing that that some things are just different?
Everybody has their different way of doing things, obviously, but it all is to the same goal. I mean, to solve the problem, or you might have to cut this because I don't know what I'm saying. So what was the question again? Like different personalities of different officers.
Well,
and how
what
they
I
handle
noticed,
stuff.
and I'll use myself as an example, and what one of my FTOs told me was, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, right? And if I show you this one way, here's one way to do it. That doesn't mean that's the only way to do it, but I'm guess I'm kind of answering the question for you, is that you're getting this opportunity to learn that this person learns this way, this person does it this way, this person does it this way, and I can go ahead and I can pick the best one, or I can mix them, and and I can say, hey, I'm going to do it this way, and then I'm going to transition to this way, and I'm going to learn that.
Okay, that makes way more sense. Yeah, I
get
get you.
And so, and my question, I guess, was, are you noticing the benefits of seeing one person do it one way, and maybe the negative of somebody doing it a different way that may not work for you, but it works for them or whatever?
Yeah. I do a lot of different ride-alongs when I can with a lot of different officers, and just kind of watching them do their thing versus watching somebody else do their thing is, like you said, either mixing it together, trying to do it my own way, or figure out my own way of doing it, because there could be a different way of doing it, or a different way of assessing the situation to make something happen, I guess.
Right.
So
right. One thing that I noticed that I had to learn, I didn't learn it early, but I ultimately did learn was that you have to lose your ego. You got to say, I'm not going to be arrogant about this or too proud about the way I do it, because it can be, holes can be poked in this veneer very fast. And so when you start opening up the door to other opportunities and thinking, oh, hey, there's this option, or I can do it this way, or, my way is not just the one way, because
I think that's very important to get, even if you're on a stop with somebody else, getting their perspective. Like, hey, how would you do this? Or am I doing something that you would kind of count as wrong,
right,
in your mind? So,
right, yeah, and the more you ask questions, the better you're going to be.
I mean, wouldn't that have been cool for us to get like a full year of just like seeing how other people do this job?
Yeah,
and then when Ken and I did it, we just kind of got thrown in, and
I was thinking about that. It's like, if I just would have came on just straight up, I mean, I'm not from here. I drive here every day.
Right.
I mean, I have family that lives here, so this was a second home to me, but I don't know the streets. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, not even just that, but that, and just like how to interact with people. Like, cause, I mean, we'll use me and my partner Jason, for example. Like, we handle things very differently.
Very differently.
So, Marcus can watch me do it, and he can watch Jason do it, and go, okay, I like the way Tim did this, and the way Jason did this, and I'm going to...
It's usually Jason.
Probably is. Probably make your career last a long, long time. But, when Ken and I went through it, we didn't get that. We had to adapt to how our training officer wanted it done, and just about the time we were getting it down, okay, it's time to switch, and now you're going to a new guy who thinks you're doing it wrong, and you don't do it this way, you got to do it my way, and you learn his way, and on to the next coach. So
right, and I'll tell you, I've had a fair number of them, of FTOs, and there was one specifically, and he knows this, and so he and I have talked quite a bit about it, but there was a point where his name was a bad word in our house. Stub my toe, and I'd say this name, right? And so just because... But he knows this, but now he's probably top 5 favorite people in the world for me right now. And I learned a ton. You have to go through a lot of crap, and you have to go through a lot of things to realize, you don't know. One, you don't know what you don't know. The other side of it, you don't know everything. And there was a point in my life, it's probably a dumb 20-something, and I said, I don't know what else I can learn, man. I know everything I think I need to know. And you don't know. You don't, man. You're, and I still don't know things I'm supposed to know. And so, you go through life just going through all that sort of stuff and trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong and how to be better.
And that's what's cool about this job is I get to soak up everything that everybody does.
Right.
And very fortunate to be where I am.
And that's kind of cool, I guess, the way that this has laid out here. you've got me. I've been doing this 14 years, and then Tim, you're doing this 7, and then you go down to you, and you're almost there.
Almost.
You've been hired, but you don't have a hire date. You don't have a start date necessarily, but you've been hired, but you're kind of in a limbo.
Yes.
And so it's if there's a 14-7 and then 0, which is kind of cool to kind of get that perspective on guys who have been doing this. There's a point, they say it takes, one of my FTOs pointed this out to me, but he said it takes about 3 years for an officer to be actually worth anything. So by the time you get hired, going through the academy and all this different stuff, it takes 3 years until you're actually useful. And you think, oh my gosh, how arrogant is that to think that I'm not useful? You're a warm body. Perfect. Yes, you can watch somebody and put handcuffs on them, and you can do things like that. Yeah, but are you actually useful in with the knowledge? Because it's not all about a pulse and having a warm body. There's more to it. You have to be able to use your brain, and you got to be and the stuff that comes out of your brain has to be useful to other people. So, just keeping that in mind is absolutely beneficial. So,
yeah, remember that.
I will.
Throughout your career.
Words of wisdom.
Welcome back to the Wisdom Podcast.
Yes, remember that.
Yeah, what he said.
That's really good insight.
So, where do you guys see yourself going in the next 5 years?
Go ahead and start, Tim.
Oh gosh, in 5 years.
Okay, 10 years.
10 years.
Do you see yourself retiring from this career, this profession, doing this?
Yes, I will retire in this profession, but that's a little ways down the road.
More
for
than
me.
5.
But yeah, it's like I think 18.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be pretty old officer running around, but
right.
I got to do it.
Oh, you're not already?
I'm old, but I'll be like really old.
It's gonna be that guy.
In 18,
that guy.
I'll be like.
Well, I remember there was and this is, I remember I went to a conference, and the guy was talking about all these guys who go through their career, and all they talk about is, oh, I got this long until retirement. I get this long until retirement. And when you're starting out, you can't think about retirement, right? You're in the negatives at that point. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'll never get there. Well, don't think about retirement. Think about doing the job you want to go do, right? And have fun doing that. And so there's guys that'll come down the, walk down the hall. What are you smiling at? I'm happy to be here. Why? They just got this grumpy guest guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Don't listen to those guys. Those guys they have no business putting poison into your head. So.
And that same guy, I think I know who you're talking about, Chief Kent.
Yeah, Kent Williams.
Chief Kent also said not to. This job's going to change you. 100%. It changes everybody, but don't let it change you too much. Don't let you become a person that you're not.
Yeah.
So.
You have to remember who you are, and that's why it's a good thing to know who you are. And I think you're at a point in your life where, because usually I think 25. Mid-20s to late 20s, you start realizing who you are and what you do, and the kind of person that you want to be on this planet.
Well, he almost has a fully functional brain.
That's
almost.
True.
At 25, they say
25.
The male brain fully forms and is functional at 25. So you're almost there.
Love to hear it.
You still have that piece that
it's just missing.
So does it
lets you think you can
so
talk
at
smack
25
to me.
So what point does it stop?
Yeah.
Stop
becoming functional.
Oh, functional.
About your age?
About
or?
my age.
Okay.
Probably about my age.
Makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, but no, but he's right. You're at that point where you're becoming who you are. And I spent my 20s raising kids and not being a cop and still trying to figure myself out. I think I developed a little bit late, and anybody listening to this or knows me is be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But you get that point where you become kind of who you are. So how are you able to benefit other people and speak wisdom into their life and do all this different stuff if you don't even know who you are?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So let me ask you guys, if you had an opportunity to go back, and let's say today was your death day, you died today.
Yikes.
Yeah, and you had the opportunity to go back and right something that you've done, correct it. Either say something to somebody that you have never said before, or you had the opportunity to go fix something that you did that you could have changed somebody's life somehow. What would you do? What would you say?
I'll go first because
you have more to draw from. Got it.
That, and I'm a avid listener to the What's a Hero podcast, so I kind of knew this question was coming. So I've had time to, every time I listen to one, it typically gets asked. So I've had time to think about it.
My brain's not fully formed, so I didn't touch on that.
This is true. And so my answer is kind of ridiculous because you just asked what I would do if I were to die today but be able to come back. So I would want to come back and be a better father. Mm-hmm. You kind of take for granted your kids when they're little. Like you're just kind of in the moment and not really thinking about, I don't know. It's hard because my oldest son just turned 18, so he's now technically an adult, and my next son is going to be 16 this year. So, but when you asked this question, I was like, man, I wish I could go back and probably try to be a better. Not that I was a bad dad, but like I could have done better. Like right. You can see areas in their life and my life where I could have done better, could have been better, and it's almost like it's too late now. It's not that it's too late. Like I want to be a good dad still, even though they're like Aiden is 18 and Carter's almost 16. But I wish I could go back and do it better.
Right.
I don't know.
I totally understand it, because just because you do something and you do it good, mm-hmm. that doesn't mean it can't be done better.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you didn't put everything you had into it at the time.
Right.
Right. And so, but you're right. If you can go back knowing, and I'd mentioned this, that's probably the first podcast, mm-hmm. knowing what you know now, being able to go back and say, hey, I want to be able to do that this way.
Yeah.
And so, but any father worth their salt, any real man that can say, I wish I was better for my kids and either there more, or I was able to provide some wisdom, or I was able to focus on getting them to be, do this or do that, or that means that you want the best for your kids. And so it totally makes sense that you want to do that. You want to do better, mm-hmm. but it doesn't mean you did bad.
Right.
You just want to, because there's good and there's really great, and there's always more. There can always be better, more.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why, like when I hang out with Marcus, he's got two little ones, and I'm like, man, I've seen him get frustrated if his kids are being a little wild out, like kids do, and I'm like, man, just soak this in and love it, because I get it as a parent. It can be annoying if your kids are being a little wild, but
right.
like you look back at it when they're older, and it's like, oh man, those were really cool times.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So just like soak it up.
You look at those pictures, like we were having a good time, and I was worried about bills, or I was worried about, whatever.
Like I was worried about my kid running into the waiter when they're bringing food to it. Like who cares? It's the waiter's job to stay out of the way. No, not really, but like it's not the end of the world if your kid runs into the waiter.
Well, I'm having a waiter on the next.
I know. Any waiters or waitresses out there, I apologize.
They're service.
I'm just
now.
saying, they're little kids. Like let them be little kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly right. We want to teach them how to be polite in public and behave and all this different stuff, but that stuff where you get so frustrated because you were worried about work, or you were worried about all these different things, and instead of spending time, I'm tired, get on the floor, play with those kiddos, mm-hmm. man, make them part of your life.
Yeah.
So, and so Marcus, question gets asked to you.
I hate to backpack off of yours, but
I'm used to you backpacking off of me. So go ahead.
Anyways, because it brought up kind of my firstborn. I wasn't there or present for her entire when she was like a baby. I wasn't there
because you got deployed, right?
So I was actually living in Texas, and they were living here in Oregon, mm-hmm. and I was at work, and me and my wife at the time had our differences and stuff, and I was very fortunate that we were cordial to where she would send me pictures and videos, and to where I felt like I was still there. But in the end, it was my fault that I wasn't there.
Right.
And that pains me to this day because she's going to be 4 on Sunday. And I just went through all of our old pictures and videos, and she was like, "Who is that?" I was like, "Oh, that's you." And she was like, "Well, where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, Daddy was working." And yeah, that hit hard, really hard. So
Yeah.
try to soak up time with her and my 10-month-old it's tough, but I love it. You got to get on the ground and play with them because they learn from you.
Right.
And she said dad at first, and I was like, whoa, like that's huge.
Right.
So
Right. The big thing is you got to figure out your why.
Mhm.
Why do you do things? And I asked that question before. Why do you want to get into this? And blah blah blah. But if you have kids and they're not one of your whys,
Mhm.
you got to absolutely be asking yourself what is,
Mhm.
because if they're not one of them, if not the main one, then what are you doing?
Mhm.
I remember learning this lesson a long time ago, that the reason we're on this planet is for other people. And if you help bring those other people into this world, then you need to be there for them, and that's what you have to kind of make a priority. If I know people who their biological fathers just dropped them, had nothing to do with them, said, "I'm done with you. I'm going to go start a new family." And they second guess themselves the rest of their life now. And they want to know, am I any good?
Mhm.
And just, you're absolutely good. You have a reason for being here. And that's why we need to put people in our lives and make them part of our life. And if there's someone that is valuable, and as a person, you have value. Now, you might not have the same mindset. You may not have the same desires and wishes and all this different stuff, but you have absolute value to somebody else. And when you start getting into that thing where you will be able to develop your relationships and friendships and everything else, that's where that value will shine. And so we're not for everybody. I'm not. I mean, there's people that are on this planet that are not for me to have anything to do with, and I have no business being part of somebody else's life, other places in the world or whatever. But that doesn't mean I don't have value, and doesn't mean they don't have value. So we just have to consider that. So
I'm here for you, Tim.
Good.
You're so full of words today.
Yeah.
All the words.
Man of many words.
This is the Marcus show. It's
You're
your
my-
world, man. I'm just paying rent.
You're my bitch.
I guess so.
Ouch. Okay. So, what I'd love to do is if we get people to ask questions or they want to chime in, you can do it on all social media platforms that we've got. But I would have no problem, us getting back together and you guys coming back in the future and maybe doing another episode and
That'd be a blast.
just kind of seeing where we go now that you have a comfortability being on the podcast and whatnot, because that's always the big thing is like, oh man, I don't know what do I say and how do I say it and what do I do and how do I, all this different stuff. It's no problem. It's just, get out there and say what you have to say, because like I said, you have value and everything you do has value. So
As soon as you said you had a podcast, it was it's always been a dream of mine to be on a podcast. And as soon as you said, I was like, I have to be on this show.
well, dream come true.
Absolutely.
Just mark it off the bucket list, bud.
No, thanks to Ken.
Thanks to Kenneth.
Thanks to Kenneth.
I guess somebody's got to do it. So
Yeah.
So, I would like to thank all of our police officers and law enforcement. That includes deputy sheriffs, and yes, Tim is a police officer in law enforcement.
Marcus is not.
Well, but you're law enforcement. You work for the police department.
Just cop light. Not quite cop enough.
Ouch. Cop 0.5.
It'll happen. So, and then to all our firefighters, our paramedics, nurses, doctors, teachers, and military veterans out there, active, reserve, and retired guys, thank you so much for everything you do. And, like I said, at the beginning, we have patience. We got to have patience to live our life. We got to have patience to do what we need to do and prepare ourselves to get to that point where we can actually be a benefit to other people. So don't rush it. Don't let it try to, force it to happen. What you're put on this planet to do is spend time with other people, be there for other people, serve other people. And by doing that, it will come when it's time for you to actually do those things for other people. Because for all we know, there's a good chance that you could be just being prepared and being trained up to get to that point. So don't lose heart. So I want to thank Marcus for coming. I want to thank Tim. You guys have anything you want to add on the closer here?
I don't think so. Yeah, just thank you for having us. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Thank you guys for showing up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Nothing to add, huh, Marcus?
No. Is there something I need to add?
No, I was just asking because Tim, he added his.
Be patient.
Be
Stuff always comes.
There you go. It does. So, I want to thank you guys for showing up. This has been the What's a Hero podcast. I have been Ken, for Marcus, and for Tim. We are clear.